Archbishop Gustavo, thanks for welcoming us to the Archdiocese of San Antonio. The patron saint of your diocese is, of course, St. Anthony of Padua, one of the most quickly canonized saints in church history. He's known for his love and care and devotion to the poor and the sick. How does his example of service inspire the faithful here in the Archdiocese?
Well, in history, I can say that the influence was tremendous because a few universities were born here, and it was a sense of social justice, to participate in the life of the poor. Especially at that time, it was the west side of San Antonio. And you can see in the devotion of the people how the example of San Antonio, their lives, there are so many organizations, houses for people in need, and then eventually Catholic Charities was founded. And especially in the last few years, our work with migrants, refugees, to have houses for young mothers in need. And there are 50 programs, all for the poor. And we are very grateful, to the possibility of helping the people, the poor and the needy, and the great help of people in the Archdiocese. Lately, I will say that the devotion to St. Anthony, even though he's very well known and is a patron saint of the Archdiocese, with Our Lady of Guadalupe, we have tried to promote it more and more, but I can see that there's been a shift in the last few years in which, when the theme of the poor has been politicized, then the reactions of people of God, people of our communities, they have a different take about our relationship with the poor. But we have not stopped helping them, Even San Antonio has been a model in downtown to have a house that is called Haven for Hope, in which, working with different nonprofits, including the Catholic Church, we serve daily about 2,000 people, homeless, just in that site. And the Catholic Church is in charge for the meals, the 3 meals. And other groups are in charge of different things. But the idea is how to help the homeless to learn skills, for those they want. Some they just go and stay there for a while and rest. Some they stay at night. But in another section, they can learn and they can be better. And I think is the influence of St. Anthony, who has been, even before the city was founded, in 1692 is when a priest, a Franciscan, who was in an expedition, he said, the future city right here, the name will be San Antonio. Why? Because that day was the feast day of San Antonio. And he being Franciscan, and it happened because the city was founded in 17.
Well, we were talking about not just helping the home, not just giving somebody a meal, but teaching them a skill. Pope Francis talks a lot about this, accompaniment.
Accompaniment.
The church has the phrase integral human development. You're looking past the immediate need in this moment that might be back tomorrow and trying to help them transform themselves. Talk a little bit about accompaniment.
Yeah. For example, we have one place that is like a supermarket, but the people all are in need. They go and they get their own cart and they choose whatever they want and need, in order to the dignity, instead of we choosing the food that we want for them or the clothing, they go to the refrigerators and get the milk that is feeding to them. the meat. And it's beautiful because you can see how people turn into gratitude. And they don't abuse the system, because if we are trying to bring them back their dignity, they don't want to stain their dignity.
Well, there's a crisis, I don't have to tell you, Archbishop, on the border. Every time we turn on the news, we see what's going on at the U.S.-Mexican border. It's not that far from San Antonio. How is that affecting the Archdiocese?
Well, the Archdiocese, we have a very small border with Mexico. And the Archbishop then, when they were making the new dioceses from San Antonio, we're going to celebrate 100 years as Archdiocese. So it was the only Archdiocese in Texas. But when the division came about and the separation of new dioceses, creating new ones, he said, we need to be in touch with the border. But all the other places close to the border, they come to San Antonio because San Antonio is a central city in the south. And there are more possibilities from here to send the migrants or refugees to wherever they can go. At the present time, since August 1st, we opened a new site, and it's called Casa de Bienvenida. Since August 1st, we have welcomed every day an average of 1,000 refugees. In the last 3-4 weeks, 1,600 daily. And they eat the 3 meals there, they have a place to stay, they can take showers, they have legal assistance, medical assistance. Some we have taken to the hospital. Even a couple of babies have been born there. So we are very proud to be able to serve our migrants and refugees. That has been easy? No. Because they come with waves. There is not a reform immigration that we will know how to guide the people, because it's changing constantly, but every person who comes to our different refugee places, including this one, that is the largest one, are welcome, and we don't ask their status, and we serve them. And then we assure them to go, particularly the refugees, when they enter legally until they have the meeting with their judge that they are given when they in the port of entry. And so they need to get there. And what we do is we get the plane tickets. We don't use, in this new refugee shelter, we don't use buses, with all the confusion that has been taking place in the country about that, and the abuses that have been taking place. So we have the contact person where they are going, and we make sure that they arrive at their destination.
Well, we're sitting here in the beautiful chapel at Assumption Seminary. Cross Catholic was here about 2 years ago. Monsignor Ted Bertagni, Father Bernard Olszewski came to talk to your seminarians about the work Cross Catholic does around the world, in the developing world, about bringing clean water to communities that don't have it, food, medicines, medical supplies, the basics of life. And I remember that your seminarians had a passion for what's going on at the border, because they were telling us about that while we were sharing what's going on in the far corners of the developing world. How does the Archdiocese, just the formation of priests in the 21st century, how do you prepare them to have the heart for the poor? Do they already have it because they want to be a seminarian, or is that formed more greatly through the process?
I think it's more, there are some that they come with that desire already, but most of our seminarians, they get that sense in their process of formation. You can see the seminary is not a seminary that is isolated in the mountains, in a very special place. The buildings are simple, in the middle of the neighborhood. And we have also a center that close to 50 years, that all the bishops of the United States trying to respond to the Hispanics in the U.S. and to the poor, they supported the initiative. It belongs to the Archdiocese of San Antonio. The name is MAC, and it's just behind the seminary. And all the courses there are pastoral in their approach. So they studied philosophy, they studied language, Spanish or English, and liturgy, but all with a pastoral mind, knowing that the audiences that we are called to serve. In the Archdiocese, it was a mission diocese until like 7 years ago. And this 7 years ago, because of the evolving of the city and the growth, and we are not anymore. But our heart and our mind is missionary mind. And the seminarians, little by little, they get it, you see. In their program, they have already experiences that can help them. But we add other experiences, that for them to be really in touch with the poor. Like, for example, now when the shooting in Uvalde, So some of them, we needed their help, and that exposure was helping them. Or 2 weeks later, when the 53 migrants were burned in the trailer here in San Antonio. So, and going to that place like Heaven for Hope, to go to prisons, to go to hospitals, more touch they have with reality, they become better ministers of the gospel. It's not the ideas, they come with an ideal priesthood, and that has to change, because you are just coming in. You cannot say, I got it, It takes time. It takes time. And if people are not willing to change, to have more the mind of Christ, and to connect with the people, might be needed in someplace else, but not here.
Well, it's a very challenging time to be a priest. What is drawing young men today to want to be a priest for the Catholic Church?
I believe that is that the Lord still calling people. So it's that calling that we don't know who will experience it and how. But then is the discernment process. We emphasize, we don't anymore call it philosophy and theology, and a different format is discipleship, all the first 3-4 years. Well, before is a year of discernment, already a seminarian, That means that they had been already discerning a couple of years before or so. But it's 1 year a seminarian through discernment. And then it is discipleship. And then 4 years of configuration. And the configuration is with Christ, the priest. And then there are ordained deacons, and that is the synthesis. That is in a community for a year. So what I think what attracts them first is some ideas they have of the church, the need of God in their lives, or they see the need of God in the world, that kind of thinking, and they would like to do something about it. But then it's to help them to find that is to become more gospel-oriented, more Christ-like. And that is where the challenge, and is the formation. And all of us, even I as an Archbishop, I need to continue in that configuration with Christ and doing other synthesis in my life to be a better servant,
As Catholics, one of the ways we all can configure ourselves more closely to Christ is to look to the lives of the saints. So I was wondering, is there a particular saint that you have a fondness for that inspires you, especially as it relates to the poor, as an example?
Oh, there are several. One is Mother Teresa of Calcutta, that I had the blessing to meet her 5 times. And so there were tremendous experiences, and just her presence her demeanor, the way he connected with people. She was a very strong woman, very direct, and in some way, I mean, she was not very good for dialogue, but you can see that was totally dedicated to the poor. Of course, St. Francis of Assisi, that I get to know through readings, through prayers. Blessed Concepcion Cabrera, Mexican woman, married. She had a very strong sense of the poor. I recall a couple of examples. One, when one of her babies died and she was attached to the clothes, and she says, these clothes, they belong to the poor. Or when she was given, even breastfeeding children on the streets, when their mothers, they couldn't do that, and she was doing that on the streets. So, and the founder of my community, Father Felix Roger, Felix Roger, I remember when the government took over our houses, all our community properties in Mexico in the Cristero time, and he said how many houses they took from us. All of them. How many of them? 5. Well, thanks be to God, we didn't have more, you know. So that kind of detachment and the poor as a preferential choice, you know. And even, you know, I noticed myself, like yesterday I was in a banquet, you know, and the banquet was going to be by the missions outdoors. And we do it every year or every other year to keep the missions standing. And the group was divided in 2 sections. And one was with air conditioner, the other one was without it. And I supposed to say the prayer, and I said, if we're in the same group, let me go and say hello. Like you look for the ones in the back, the ones in the periphery, the ones who they don't count, that they are not seen, you know. And I owe that to the formation that I received. And the love of Christ, of course, but somebody who helped me, you know, to see it. So
you mentioned children in your answer there about one of the saints that inspired you helping the poor children. Cross Catholic Outreach, about 7 or 8 years ago, started a ministry called Box of Joy. It's where Catholics in parishes here pack a box of toys and gifts, and it goes down to the developing world. And oftentimes children have never received, they live in such poverty, ever received a present. Talk about how important it is to reach out to children, what it might mean to those kids in poverty, but also what it might be, how it might be transforming people participating here.
Yeah, you know, a group that has been helpful to us has been a community organizer group. Here is called CUPS. They're celebrating next few months 50 years. And so our communities could be centered more in their parish, in their ministries. So we need also people who are not in that dynamic to help us to see how we can organize ourselves to improve the streets, to get better lighting, the streets, more security, better water, things that are beyond just looking into your parish or school and the 40 ministries that you have, but that they are feeding the parish, the community of the parish. And so now is to go out, you know. We had also a priest who helped many other priests to be very involved on relief human services that is beyond the U.S., you know. We have Catholic charities in the U.S., beyond the U.S. And so, and the fact that our history here, knowing that this city, it didn't started with people who came from the old country to bring their good things and create new things here. There were people already living here, the indigenous and also the Mexican people. And then they came from Spain and they were able to build up the structure of the city. But the fact that it was from the bottom up, and to see what has happened, that now is the 7th largest city of the country. You know, I mean, it's something that started with the missions, the cathedral, and that's it, you know. So very simple beginnings, very impoverished beginnings, but a lot of faith, you know.
Pope Francis has been prodding the church since he became Pope in 2013 about the poor. He created something called World Day of the Poor. It's actually coming up in a few weeks. The theme this week is do not turn your face away from anyone that is poor. Cross Catholic tries to take this message. We have like 50 outreach priests, and they travel the United States every week, taking this message to the faithful. Sometimes people might be in their own routines, you know, and they might just not be aware of what's going on in the developing world if they don't hear it from time to time. Talk about how important that message is to occasionally hear about what's going on far from home.
Well, for sure, the fact that we are close to the border and through the border comes people from many different parts of Latin America and even from other countries beyond the Americas. That is real contact, you know. But it implies missionary work and also to develop some skills, you know, some skills and virtues, above all Christian virtues, to take any of those adventures in the faith. There's some priests from here that have been connected for years with different parts in Latin America. All the bishops of Texas, all the dioceses, we committed, for example, 10 years to help Honduras on a regular basis. And that was helpful to them, no doubt, but also creates a different way of looking at what we have. Mother Teresa, she used to say that, and I heard her saying, she said, you don't know what you have until you give it away. So, and we can grow on this, you know. As you say, the many ways of poverty. It's a variety of possibilities. So not everyone is called to serve the poor in the same way, and or the same a group of poor people. The poor, and to have the sensitivity, the heart for the poor, you know, is something that it doesn't come automatically and one day to the next. Something that has to be developed, and by God's grace, you know, thinking about other examples of poor people helping the poor. Well, it was some of the apostles, for example. You know, maybe St. Paul was rich in wisdom, but I mean, what implied for him to go out and to meet with communities that they were struggling in many ways, you know, especially faith-wise, but also materially. So.
Well, Archbishop, it's been wonderful to be with you today. We've gone way over time, and I could talk to you all day long. Your passion for the poor is such a beautiful thing. But on behalf of Cross Catholic Outreach, thank you and your wonderful staff here for hosting us in San Antonio, and just thank you for your time.
Yeah, and we pray that as we open the eyes to Christ, that we don't close our eyes to our neighbor.